A suspected terrorist being held at the Guantanamo Bay detention center has decided to plead guilty. With more on this, the Wall Street Journal's legal correspondent Jess Bravin joins us now from Washington, D.C. And Jess, there's a problem with him pleading guilty, is that the U.S. won't charge him.
Yes, well, Simon, this is one of the many, curious legal aspects of the Guantanamo detention system. This is because detainees recently won 2 decisions in federal appeals court that found that the 2 most common charges the United States wants to file against them, conspiracy and material support for terrorism, are not valid war crimes. Those are civilian crimes. Only war crimes can be prosecuted in a military commission. This detainee, Sufiyan Barhoumi, had been charged with those 2 crimes 3 times actually since 2005. Every time the charges had fallen apart on the government side. He wanted to have his day in court because he believed that it was the only way he could get a definite sentence. When the charges were dismissed because they were not valid charges, while in the civilian world or the normal justice system, that would be a victory for the defendant. He can walk free because the charges are not valid. In Guantanamo, if you're not charged, a detainee is held indefinitely. And so this detainee, Barhoumi, saw his hopes of getting into a courtroom and telling his side of the story dashed, and he made a desperate offer to the government. He said, "Charge me with anything you want, I will plead guilty and walk into court and throw myself on the mercy of the court." The government's answer was, well, if you testify against other detainees, then we will charge you with something. But if not, we will leave you uncharged, technically presumed innocent, but as a practical matter, held indefinitely at the prison camp at Guantanamo Bay.
And there are examples of people who have managed to be charged and plead guilty and do time and then leave, right?
Yes, that's right. Most of the people who were charged, there have been 7 who were charged and convicted via military commissions, 5 of them in plea bargains, have been released after serving their time, although the government claims it could theoretically hold them in jail forever after they have served their sentences. In fact, every detainee who has either been convicted after a trial or made a plea bargain has in fact been released after completing their sentence. And so for Barhoumi and some other detainees, they see that getting into a courtroom is their only chance of actually having a definite sentence. Barhoumi's lawyer, an Air Force captain, told me that he's willing even to have a life sentence if the court feels that's fair. He obviously doesn't want a life sentence, but if he wants, he says, the certainty of knowing what's going to happen. It's the uncertainty of indefinite detention that he finds too difficult to stomach.
Yeah, and I think anyone could relate to that. Now, the other thing that's interesting that you've written about Guantanamo is that there's a lot of contraband that can't go in there, and there's some surprising contraband, including John Grisham novels. Why is a John Grisham novel so diabolical?
This was something that emerged while reporting this story. His lawyers, they told me they bring things on their visits to him. They're really one of his only contacts the outside, and they brought a couple of novels by John Grisham, the best-selling lawyer writer, because they showed a bit about how the U.S. justice system worked, and the guy, the detainee, is learning English. The books were seized and returned to the attorney. They were told that they were rejected, not appropriate to go to a detainee, and he was given no explanation why. I brought that up with John Grisham. I said, "How do you feel about that?" The government incidentally explained that they gave me their blanket policy. They allow detainees to see materials that are consistent with their mission of providing safe, secure, and humane treatment. John Grisham, it turns out, has about the same view of Guantanamo as Guantanamo had of him. He told us that he considered the prison camp there a sad perversion of American justice, and he could not understand why his books, one was called The King of Torts, about a civil litigator, and another called The Innocent Man, a nonfiction account. He couldn't understand why those were a risk to national security. As it happens, after we asked the Pentagon about this for further clarification, they reversed course and said that the detainee would be permitted to read those best-selling books by John Grisham.
Interesting. I guess happy ending then in some ways. Thank you very much, Jess Bravin of the Wall Street Journal. We appreciate your time.